Hey guys, I'm doing another one. This one I'm really excited about because I feel like it's very fitting for this new year that we're entering into and talking about some topics that kind of help us form ourselves and just letting ourselves be who we want to be rather than having to stick to certain aesthetics and vibes because, hello, that's not what it's about. We are our own vibe. Actually, the thought that has sparked this video essay is, what is authenticity? What is being authentic? What does it mean? And while I was journaling and figuring out who I wanted to be this year, what I wanted to strive to do, or my goals, I found this beautiful quote. I don't know where it was from, but I see it all over Pinterest now. I am a museum of everything I love. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that we become different versions of ourselves throughout our life. At every point, when we become teenagers, when we're trying to figure out our values and what we stand for in the world and who we are, then you become an adult. So then you start to figure out who you are in the adult world. And when you start your first adult job, you start to realize who you are in that environment. Then you move countries or you move cities, and then you've got to figure out again who you are there. And you're constantly reinventing yourself. You're constantly transforming and learning new parts of yourself. One thing I've observed on social media is this need to be an aesthetic or a vibe or restricting ourselves because we have to appear a certain way. And that defeats the whole purpose of being authentic. I believe emulating things that you love and admire is one thing. For example, when I was in my 70s era, 60s, 70s era, hippie live era, that's what I like to call it, I really admired everything about it. So I listened to the music. I watched movies set in that era or filmed in that era. I read books from that era. I wanted to read stories, biographies, anything that would put me physically in that realm that I never fully experienced for myself. Where it went wrong is whenever I'd buy something new, I would feel inauthentic. A tank top from Glassons, I'd feel guilty. I felt like I needed to live up to this vintage style so badly that everything I bought or everything I liked had to fit into this one mold, which is actually very restricting, and you're seeing yourself as just one specific thing. And I think that's ruining the whole point of being authentic. I've also seen a lot of videos lately, dress like your Venus sign, to do your hair like your rising sign. Now, I love astrology. I love using it to figure myself out. That's the whole reason why I started learning about it 10 years ago, because I wanted to understand myself on such a deeper level. But the way it's translated into visual things, we're putting too much value on how we look. When I look at a birth chart, it is who they are. It encapsulates the energies, the ways in which people approach their lives. It's how they express themselves, how they love, how they feel, not what they dress like, And yes, your rising sign does kind of explain how you like to present yourself to the world. It doesn't mean you have to dress a certain way, but we all crave to be understood and seen and to know who we are so desperately that we feel the need to label things or find meaning out of things that we just don't, that are just not necessary. Even this rise in this whole, what color season are you? Your color analysis. I got roped into that. Me trying to understand what I am. Someone with a neutral undertone can go very pale in the winter and very tan in the summer. Green eyes, freckles. What does that mean? We've become unable to just be anymore. And we just have this need to label ourselves to fit an identity or to be something because we've forgotten how to just be. While I admit some of the subcultures that have been created in groups help us to figure out who we are. It helps us to influence forming ourselves. When grunge was a thing in the 90s, It allowed people to come together because they all had a common interest. I feel like it's become more about what you look like and less about what it represents. I always think about that song by Nirvana where Kurt's talking about how, you know, you make fun of us yet you love our music. I can't remember the exact quote. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. The pure essence of finding yourself should be by exploring many different aspects of things you like and the things you don't like. That's something I wrote down. When I was a teenager, watching films was a huge part of me figuring out who I was. I didn't have much access to watching films except for, we had like a cable channel called 4, which I don't even think is the same channel anymore in New Zealand, and they would play every Friday and Saturday night 90s movies, and that's where I watched Dazed and Confused for the first time. I remember watching I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I remember watching these films being like, why has no one ever shown me this before? Like, these are the best movies I've ever seen. It just lighting a fire inside of me because it was a whole new world that I'd never seen before, and that then led me down a new path of exploring who I was. And now it's so different. We can just look up things on TikTok or on our phones. When I was a teenager, even though it was like 2013, 2014, because I'm born in the year 2000, my parents restricted a lot of my internet access. I remember training into the city and going to Real Groovy Records, looking at all the music, and I just had such a love for old things. And you could argue that you're an old soul. I think a lot of us are old souls, but if you believe in reincarnation like I do, I believe we've all been here before, we've all lived different lives, and we, by nature, are attracted to things that are comfortable or maybe something that we experienced in our past lives. I don't know. Discovering K Road for the first time was like insane. Like, you know, if everybody on that street was just like expressing themselves in every which way, and that was my biggest inspiration. I'm sure anyone watching from Auckland can 100% relate to that. And I remember my family often, you know, using terms to describe me, and that you inherently or unknowingly take on those terms, whether they're positive or negative, because I'm sure a lot of people can have experience in being labelled negative things from a young age as well. I'm just going to stay in the positive lane for now. I was told things like, I think I said before, you're an old soul, you're artistic, you're creative, you're bubbly, and that led me down, you know, a certain path. And I remember my mum buying me this little glass reflective little, what would you call it? It's like a knick-knack, kind of like this. But it was glass, and it had Pisces in it, and it had the dates. And she had one, and it was an Aquarius one. And I remember being absolutely fascinated with it. My nana also had a Leo one. And so my nana also, she was big into this stuff, but she just didn't really have any knowledge to share with me. So it's kind of done the reverse, where I know a lot of things about astrology now, and I'm teaching her. But my nana used to wear, literally, this is so Leo coded, Leo, I'm a Leo. Like, she used to wear that t-shirt when I was a kid, and I was like, that's so cool. Some of the films I actually was introduced to in high school as well. One of my RE teachers showed us 10 Things I Hate About You. Actually, she was my English teacher as well. I was going to say, why would she show us that movie in RE? She showed us 10 Things I Hate About You, and I will never forget the influence that movie had on my whole cohort. All of us were obsessed with Heath Ledger, but it was that the character Kat, I'm getting goosebumps because I remember my cohort in high school, and a lot of us girls really modelled ourselves after Kat Stratford, and she rebelled against everything and didn't need to be accepted. And I just remember that being my high school experience. And I think that's what's so cool, is like there's this rawness in seeing a character that you kind of see yourself in, and then you're not copying them as such, but it just kind of reinforces, oh, I'm like that. And I think that's really cool. I definitely grew a love for films at that point in time. And I wouldn't say I'm a film buff by any means, but certain films from certain eras very much influenced me because I'm such a visual person. And that's why I joined media studies. And I'll never forget the day my teacher, Miss Bean, showed us Scream for the first time, which is to this day my favourite film ever. I don't feed into a stereotype to translate that to everyone. That's another thing, is I feel like we need everything we love and are interested in and everything we are good at to be forward facing to everybody that we know. And that is another issue with social media and Instagram. We need all of our passions to be on show for everyone to know about. I love the expression that we have access to on social media, but I just hate it at the same time. When we feel like our passions and hobbies need to be on show to the world, there's nothing left for ourselves. And when I look at all the things I love, there are some things I love and enjoy that isn't so vocal to the world. But because of social media and platforms where we are allowed to express ourselves, I think people take it a step too far. Like, I want to get to know a friend and over time learn about all the things they love. I don't want to look at their Instagram and go, okay, so they like this, they like this, and I'm guilty of it. I felt like I needed to claim everything that I loved, and I needed to make it known to the world that I loved it, which isn't a bad thing. But I do believe like there is beauty and joy in just keeping some of those things about yourself to yourself, or just to the people in your close inner circle, which then leads me on to the discussion of some things people are doing, which is, in order to express themselves, can become so inauthentic because it becomes performative. TikTok has made this whole main character need to be seen narrative to a whole nother level. The funny thing is you are the main character in your own life, but you're not the main character in everybody else's lives. Everything that you love is not their business. If you love something, you should love it because you enjoy it being a part of your life. As soon as it becomes a performance or a way to prove yourself to others, that's when you've lost it. And I'm speaking from experience. If you have ever loved something so deeply, like me, my hippie era, I loved it so much, but it not allowing myself to also love other things. Like, I didn't let myself listen to Nirvana that whole period of my life because it didn't fit with the vibe. It didn't fit the aesthetic I was going for. When we put these form of restrictions on ourselves, it's become very normal these days, and I really don't know how to word it because I'm sure a lot of us do it. We're restricting ourselves from exploring these things because it's known for something else and we don't want to be associated with that. I'm not saying you don't have to share your loves with the world in fear of being inauthentic. I'm doing this right now by speaking to you, sharing my thoughts, things that I observe, because observing people and how they are is a big passion and hobby of mine, hence why I love astrology so much. But there's a difference in sharing my opinions because I want to speak my mind for my own enjoyment, and doing it to gain an audience and receive recognition. We all want to be recognized in some way or another, right? But it's becoming something we expect from the people around us, or strangers even, because now anyone can have an audience. I have an audience right now. The difference is, if you are watching this, you're choosing to watch this. If you are disagreeing with everything I'm saying, you can leave this video right now and go and watch something that you actually want to watch. When I see hate comments, I think we're forgetting we can choose what content we watch. If you don't like it, don't stick around. Going back, I'm a museum of everything I love. Same goes for your life. Indulge in things that you love. Explore things you don't like. It doesn't mean you have to pour energy into those things you don't like. What's the point in that? When I stopped making YouTube videos and uploading to Instagram, I did it to commit to a career path of primary school teaching. And I've been doing that for the last 4 years. I've stopped in the last 6 months, and I did that because I believed if I wanted to be a good teacher, I had to give up everything else. I love to do that. I'm not a teacher right now. And again, why can't I do it all? Why do we put these rules and restrictions on ourselves? because our lives are meant to be full of all the things that we love. That's what being authentic means. When I'm doing something I truly enjoy, I always imagine my younger self doing these things too. Being authentic is about doing the things you do when no one is watching all of the time. If doing these things make you cringe or self-conscious, then you need to try build yourself up slowly to do those things. No one is looking at you, and if they are, they don't actually care. This has been a huge thing for me. Honestly, even just walking down to the park and reading my book. I love reading in the sun, but yes, safety is also an issue for me because I've had instances in the past where I've been out in public and felt unsafe, but also self-conscious that everyone's looking at me going, what is she doing? Why is she sitting there? That's not a nice place to read a book. Trust me, no one is thinking that, and if they are, that's kind of a them problem. Because I've spent so much time indulging in the things I love, it's allowed me to feel comfortable living and existing in my world because everything I do is authentic. I've almost built my own comfortability in the world around me. I know if you're a lot younger, let's say in high school, that it's going to be a lot harder for you to be authentic and to freely just be yourself because you are an age where you're so self-conscious and not necessarily comfortable in your own skin. Authentic is instilled in our self-confidence. That's the biggest thing you can commit to in this life, is making sure you're proud of who you are and what you love, and wherever that takes you. I want you to go and write down right now all the things you love, open and honestly, and I want you to commit to spending time doing those things this week. Each day I try to spend time doing at least 2 things that I enjoy each day. Something that I enjoy that makes me feel like I am expressing exactly who I am and unapologetically doing it. I don't even have to post about it. I'm just doing it for my pure enjoyment. And I want you to go and do that too. We want to live authentic lives. We want to pour energy into the things that make us happy and confident and secure. Write down all the things you love. Right at the top, write a title. I'm a museum of everything I love. And write everything. I want them all to be completely and utterly true to who you are. And I want you to look back at that at the end of the year and add to that list. Because that's what you're doing. You're just adding on. Adding as much things to your little museum as you possibly can. Because I've been listening to The Doors again. And for those people who watch me on YouTube, I love The Doors. Got to the point where I listened to them so much that when I started rejecting that version of myself, I couldn't even listen to them. It was cringe for me to listen to them. And having variety and loving all these different things that go all which way direction that make no sense is what's so cool about it, because it's you. All those things are you. Isn't that so special? So yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in my next one. If you haven't watched any of my vlogs, go give them a try. I feel like if you like what I'm talking about now, you'll get a bit more of me yapping away in those vlogs as well. If not, just keep listening to me on here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
There's something in the